Welcome, my little thing is in here. Welcome, Rotarians and many, many, many guests. Let me just tell you, I am stunned by the turnout. I feel so loved here. Look at this. You all came here for me. In fact, of course, I realized you're all here for the amazing program we're going to have, but on a, just a note that really fills me with pride as we've been trying to get our members re-engaged. We had to pull out a new table for the first time, I think, since 2019. So it's pretty awesome. But welcome to the 5,365th meeting of the Rotary Club of San Jose. I am Sal Pizarro, your president. I'd like to thank the Military Care Committee for both greeting us in the greeting line, and of course they had their card station out at the table there. If you didn't get a chance to sign a card, please do so. We'll be hearing from Catherine Tompkinson, who is the co-chair with Dave Silva, a little bit later. Because I realize we have a huge crowd here, so many guests, but because we have a huge crowd and we want to give a little extra time to our program, we are going to forego guest introductions. So I hope that you got a chance to meet people before the meeting started. So at this time, I'd like to move on and introduce our membership chair, Matt Bell, to give us our update on membership.
Thank you, President Sal. What a great view from up here with everybody here. As you know, I come up here regularly to give an update on membership. We're doing quite well. I started to say you are doing quite well. How am I sounding? You guys got me okay? Sound okay? All right. All right. So President Sal's goal for the year was 40 new members. We're already halfway there with all the work. Can you hear me right? Okay right now? Can you hear me better now? All right, I'll try to keep this distance. So we're already halfway there with 20 great new members, and I just really want to recognize the most recent sponsors of those new members. And if you're here, please stand up. Ed Correa, Gary Giannini, Kathleen Thomas, Dick Conniff, and James Williams. Please stand. Thank you very much. We're going to keep pushing through the holiday season. Usually that's a slower time for membership, but I want to talk in a minute about the membership criteria. I often get asked, like, who are we looking for? But first, just a reminder, if you have not yet renewed your membership, if you just haven't gotten to it, please do. It's overdue. And if you don't, hi, Cindy. And if you haven't yet, and you're planning on doing it, please get that in, because we're actually going to start making some phone calls and saying, hey, guys, like, let's get this in. If you have some issues that we want to deal with, we can talk about it. But if you just haven't gotten to it, please do. And then we're going to start reaching out to try to retain as many of you as possible. But let's talk just a little bit about the criteria. This is straight from the Rotary policies and procedures. The Rotary Club of San Jose seeks members of good character with an excellent professional reputation who are committed to contributing to the community. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer, right? Also, should be engaged as the proprietor, partner, or manager of a business of profession, or serving in an executive capacity in a not-for-profit organization, or must be on a leadership track, retired, or a community volunteer who has demonstrated a commitment to community service. So when you think of potential members, please think about this. I'd ask that maybe if we can include this in the bulletin, just so you have a reference for this. This is who we're looking for. Look across at each other. We're looking for more people like you. So thanks for your continuing efforts, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Matt. And now we get to do one of the more fun things we always get to do, which is to introduce new members. Now, these guys may not be too new to you, but we're introducing them for the first time. Let me welcome up here Alex Rossomny and John Valenti with their sponsor for both of them, Celeste Drake.
Good afternoon. I first met Alex at the beginning of this year when he was promoted to a commercial loan officer at Heritage Bank of Commerce. And during the time that I got to know him, I learned that not only was he a great banker, but that he had a real passion for giving back to the community. And a large part of that is due to his parents, who have and continue to give back to the community. In fact, Alex recently joined the board of directors of Cancer Care Point. I know that this young man is going to make a great impact in our club. And I'd like all of you to welcome Alex Rasami.
Thank you, thank you. I guess with everyone here today, it would be a great time to announce my candidacy for mayor. I'll actually start with my upbringing. My dad's an immigrant from the Middle East, and my mom is an absolute angel from Pennsylvania. And while their upbringings couldn't be more different, their values couldn't be more the same. They taught my brother and I to respect one another, to be kind, be courageous, and always give back to our community. After all, we live in it, we have to serve it. And oftentimes when I find myself not really sure what to do, I hear my dad's voice in the back of my head telling me his famous quote: "To get what you want in life, you must help others get what they want first." And I believe I do that in my professional career as a commercial lender for Heritage Bank, and I believe I do that in my personal career as a board member of Cancer Care Point. I love to be outdoors. I love the sun. I love to hike, fish, just overall be outside. I also like to do a lot of my cooking outdoors. So if you ever walk by my house and smell smoke, promise it's the barbecue. And I love meeting new people. Rotary is a great way to do that, and I think everyone has a special story. I can't wait to hear all of yours. I'm absolutely honored to be a member of the Rotary Club of San Jose. Thank you.
So I met John again earlier this year when he was promoted to a commercial loan officer at Heritage Bank of Commerce. And getting to know John, I realized that he also expressed an interest in giving back to the community, mostly on a focus on food sustainability, as he did some studies in environmental science. So I brought them both to Rotary, and you welcomed them with open arms. Didn't hurt that that first meeting included Gordon Biersch beer, which I think they thought we did that every meeting. Anyway, I want you all to welcome our new member, John Valenti.
Hi, everybody. So I'm really honored to be a member of San Jose Rotary. Just wanted to share a little bit about myself and why I wanted to join Rotary. So it really, I was raised by a single mom, and she really taught us the value of giving back to the community at a young age. And when we were growing up, she was the first person in our family to get a degree, and she worked really hard. My sister and I, were raised by her while she was getting her first PhD at UC Davis, and after that, she went on to be a professor at San Jose State. So I just really think, coming from humble beginnings like we did, and seeing how teachers give back to the community, I just think it's really important. So I'm really joining Rotary, following in her footsteps. Today she has 2 PhDs, and it's a clinical psychologist, so she's still giving back, in a different avenue, but still giving back to the community. So that's a little bit about why I'm joining Rotary. A little bit about myself. So ever since I was 8 years old, my chore was to cook dinner for my family, and so naturally, and when I graduated high school, I had this Italian cooking encyclopedia. I had done every recipe inside of it. When I finished high school, my first degree was in culinary arts at the San Francisco School of California Culinary Academy. So after that, I spent about 16 years cooking as a chef. I met my fiance, Catherine, at a small restaurant in the Paso Robles Airport. And, we've been together ever since. In 2008, the recession was going on, and the restaurant we were working at went out of business. And that's when I moved back to San Jose area. And, there was still opportunity out here. It was really awesome, and we've been here ever since. So now, Catherine and I got our degrees together at San Jose State. We both worked together to get them. She got hers in environmental science, and I got mine in finance. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited to be part of Rotary. I love being at Heritage Bank because I still get to learn about business and economics and all that stuff. So, again, I'm really honored to be a part of San Jose Rotary. Thanks, you guys.
I think we're going to step over here and get a photo. Okay. Next, I'd like to invite to the stage Dali Parikh. who is here from the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley for Global Impact to tell us about their club and what they do. Dolly, please come to the stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dali Parikh, and I am here to represent our club, the Rotary Club of Silicon Valley for Global Impact. So it is my honor to represent our club today, which is also a club of the Art of Living members with a vision of a stress-free mind and a violence-free society. Art of Living is a 40-year-old international peace and humanitarian organization that has helped millions of people in more than 180 countries to relieve stress and anxiety through breath work and meditation. The 3-day breath and meditation program reduces stress, improves health and well-being, and the program encourages all its members to live a life of peace and harmony through service. The Rotary Club of Silicon Valley brings together all the service projects inspired by the Art of Living's founder, Sri Ravi Shankar, whose vision is to see a smile on every face. We have 57 members in our club from 3 countries and 40 cities. Our areas of focus is community mental health, youth mental health, education, and environment conservation. Our members and the Art of Living volunteers offer courses to reduce stress and trauma and to develop resilient leaders. Trained instructors offer breath and meditation and yoga workshops in cities around the world. Our Cities for Peace program offers Be the Change online module to invite city change makers to bring peace where violence and discord have taken over. In the times of climate and economic volatility, Bay Area, including San Jose, have also seen a spike in hate crimes, leaving us extremely vulnerable. I would like to leave you with 3 simple messages today. 1, our planet needs help, both on an environmental and humanitarian level. 2, we need each of us to become a resilient leader, to change the course towards a way of life that is regenerative, peaceful, and positive. 3, peace begins within, and collective peace can lead to a social change. Connect with us or my friend Michael Greco over here, who invited me here today, and he works at the Miller Center at the Santa Clara University. We should hear from him someday, who has graciously invited me today to share this with you. To learn more about, you can reach out to me to learn more about the programs and become the catalyst of change. My name is Dolly Parikh, a fellow humanitarian, Rotarian, and a business leader from Fremont, California. Please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly, and thank you, Mick, for bringing her to share that message about her club. Next, we're going to have Catherine Tompkinson to give us a military care update. Catherine, come on up.
That's an old picture. First slide, we've got about 20 pictures to get through, so we'll go through them pretty quickly. I'm Catherine Tompkinson, my co-chair, Dave Silva, and I want to share with you some updates on the Military Care Committee. The mission of the committee is to serve veterans and active duty members of our armed forces. We do this by partnering with many community organizations, Defenders Lodge at the Palo Alto Hospital, Operation Care and Comfort that sends packages overseas to active duty military personnel in conflict zones, San Jose State University student organization, veteran student organization, Go Spartans. We have today with us the veteran who initially invited us to this relationship, Spartan alumna Alex de la Campa, back there, who has since gone on to become the founder of the Alumni Veteran Student Organization. San Jose State's Veterans Resource Center, who is actively represented by Rotarian Robert Davis, and to promote the club on your behalf by participating in the Veterans Day Parade. You can see some pictures from previous years. We invite you to participate in this year's parade. It's on Veterans Day, Friday, November 11. Our entry this year is an open-air vehicle, and as with last year, the San Jose State University Veterans Student Organization will be marching ahead of us carrying the Rotary banner on our behalf. We have information sheets on all the tables and sign-up sheets out in the lobby, and we'll be conducting sign-ups over the next few weeks. Rotarians who are veterans are particularly encouraged to join us and bring along your families. We do have a limit on the number of folks who can ride in the vehicle, so please sign up early. And whether you want to jump on board the cable car or not, please come out and enjoy the parade. We are once again hosting a hospitality tent, which we set up early in the morning on Arena Green, across from the SAP Center offices. We will have coffee and donuts, and after the parade is concluded, a picnic lunch. And there is no cost to participate. In other committee updates, you may recall that we recently supported San Jose Navy Week with Rear Admiral Ann Swap as our speaker. We later co-sponsored a small reception for her, and you see a few of those images. Our next project happens tomorrow. Today, you may have noticed that we are asking you to write holiday notes to our servicemen and women. Tomorrow, we assemble 100 care packages, and each box will have a handwritten note by you. Many thanks to so many of you: Karen Philbrick, David Beanie and the Veteran Student Organization, and Dave Silva's daughter Julianne, who cut out and decorated those charming cards that you'll have a chance to sign. We'll do this again in December for the guests at the Defenders Lodge at the Palo Alto VA Hospital. We're always happy to have new members join the committee. We try not to meet more than absolutely necessary, but can always use helping hands with our service projects. And finally, many thanks to all of you who contribute to the Rotary Foundation, from which we derive the majority of our funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, so a year has come and gone for 3 Rotarians, and I'd like to invite them up with their sponsors, Mike Anning, Maggie Padovani, and Tricia Creason Valencia. Please come on up to get your blue badges. Mike, I'll let you hand it. You guys came up and I'll might as well give you something to do. Thank you. And I'll take the one. There we go.
I put it on too well.
We recycle these, okay. So congratulations on getting through a year, and we look forward to your increased participation. Where's Carl Silker? Is he taking our picture? He's probably, oh, there he is, okay. Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, it's only October, but we have our Thanksgiving program right around the corner, and I'd like to bring up Lenore Keeve to talk about it. Lenore.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, we've got the Bob Keeve Thanksgiving program coming up on November 16th, and we're looking for participants. If you're not familiar with the program, my dad, Bob Keeve, started it in 1997, and every year since, about a dozen Rotarians get up here and tell us why they're thankful. And they do it in 2 minutes or less. And it's a great opportunity to open your heart and let us get to know you a little bit better. So if you're interested, please contact me at lenkieve@gmail.com. That's lenkieve@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenore, and that is always a really enjoyable, heartwarming program. I've participated in it, so many of you have, so if you are willing and able, please contact Lenore to sign up. Okay, a couple of other reminders. You've got some flyers on your table about the Rotary Play Garden Annual Family Picnic on Tuesday, October 25th. This is Rotarians and parents helping parents together. There's going to be a picnic dinner. I think there might be some wine and beer. And it should be a really fun afternoon and evening on the 25th. And also, we need some volunteers for the Unhoused Impact Committee, which is doing a hygiene kit assembly at Block Construction on October 29th, starting at 8:30 a.m. If you can help out, please contact Sarah Janigan. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for today's program, Barbara Marshman, who, of course, was my longtime colleague at the Mercury News as the editorial page editor and one of our Rotarians now. Barbara, come on up here. Okay, and she's bringing with her the rest of the program. Our mayoral candidates, San Jose City Councilman Matt Mahan and Santa Clara County Supervisor Cindy Chavez. The floor is yours.
Thank you, President Sal, and thank you, Supervisor Chavez and Councilmember Mann for making time to be here today. And I hope it's okay if I call you by your first names, as I almost just did now, because I've known them both for years. So I want to quickly let you all know the format here. We don't have enough, we don't have a lot of time. We're going to close at 1:15. I do want to compliment President Sal on getting to this at exactly 12:36, as the agenda said. I was astonished. So you all know the format here. Charlie McCollum, our program chair, is going to be holding up timing cards. We're going to have basically 2-minute answers or less questions, and then the other person, if needed, has a 1-minute rebuttal. Or if both people are answering the same question, the person who went first has a rebuttal. If the second launches a tactical nuclear attack. Anyway, Charlie will be our timer. He will hold up a little card. It is telling us when time is running out. He's not holding up scores like Dancing with the Stars. So let's get started. Cindy, how about them 49ers?
Oh, Barbara, how I've missed spending time with you. Actually, thank you all very much for letting us be with you, and thank you for the question. And what I will start by saying is that I'm very, frankly, proud of the relationship I have with the 49ers, and let me start by saying how I got to know them. During COVID-19, when the health officer closed down the county, we had a lot of nonprofits that were doing their outdoor events or their events where everybody was crowded in one place, and they couldn't do them. We needed those nonprofits to have all the resources they could because we didn't know what was coming our way. I reached out to a number of businesses, including the 49ers, to ask them to make contributions. Not only did they do that, they were willing to do a press conference and challenge every other major corporation to do the same thing. And that resulted in a relationship that allowed us to have one of the largest testing sites in the country. My relationship with them is built on the good work we did, and I think their sincere interest in having a safe, clean San Jose. So thank you for the question.
Well, you or your supporters have hit Matt pretty hard for getting large amounts of money in support, in PACs, from developers, and questioned whether that's going to affect his decisions in some way. Isn't it fair for people to wonder what might be going on in San Jose?
Well, you know, I think these are really important questions, and the answer to that is that I've been in public office for a long time, and I think you would be hard-pressed to find my decisions being impacted by any external resources that I've received. And again, let me just say this: I am, you know, I'm running for office with the support of many leaders in the business community, many leaders in the labor community, many leaders in the nonprofit community and neighborhoods. And folks, I'll tell you, I would not have run for mayor again had I not had a cross-section of people in our community supporting me, because the coalitions that we run with have to be the coalitions that we govern with. And we need to keep, and well, we need to do a better job of working together.
Thank you. Matt, would you like to comment on that or the overall issue?
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. It's a great turnout. Great to see you all. I mean, look, I think that the money doesn't lie. I, first of all, do not think that a corporation invests over $700,000 in a politician without thinking they're getting something in return. I don't know what it is, but I'm concerned by it. If you look at the data, our campaign has been outspent 2-to-1 in the outside special interest money. If it was up to me, we would eliminate that outside money. But if you look at the fundraising on the campaign side, our campaign has significantly more donors, a lower average donation amount, and significantly more donors who live within the city of San Jose. I also have contributions from businesses and labor unions in a very diverse cross-section. But I do think that the majority of the special interest money has gone in for my opponent for a reason, frankly. So I'm running to stay focused on the issues that affect our neighborhoods. And I think that's reflected in the broad base of small dollar donors that we have who are actual residents of San Jose.
So I don't want to get caught up in this for a long time, but I think one of the elephants in the room, and there probably are several, is the eternal business labor, which has come up here. I'd like you both to comment on how it's playing out. I'd like to know if Matt has ever had any experience with labor relations. Cindy, I wonder if the fact that you used to run the San Jose Labor Council, the South Bay Labor Council, is maybe a reason businesses support Matt. And what do you say to those folks?
Well,
Why don't we let Matt go first on this one, and we'll.
But
Sure,
can I just say one thing on the rebuttal side for the last question you asked, which is this: the California. I know I didn't.
Yeah,
I have to say that the instructions, I got lost with Dancing in the Stars. But anyway, what I just wanted to add is the California Real Estate Board. First of all, they just filed, so I only saw their filings recently. Spent over $560,000 in support of Mr. Mahan. And again, the question I would ask would be why, if you're going to ask me that about the 49ers, that I think that's a really important question to raise up. And I don't know the answer to that either. I don't know what the California Real Estate Board has invested in him, and I don't know if they're mad at me because we did an eviction moratorium. That's sort of my assumption, but I think it's a fair question. So I'm just putting it out there as a fair question.
Matt.
So you asked about my experience with labor. I'll say my father was in a public sector union for 25 years as a letter carrier. I credit that with being the reason that we had health insurance. When I was 17 years old, my lungs collapsed multiple times. I had to have a series of surgeries that would have probably bankrupted my family had my father not had health insurance. So I think that workers have a right to organize. I strongly support that. I think that labor unions have done a lot to support working people. I have donations from labor unions in this race. I also have a diverse range of donors. But I also think that, and maybe this is why I don't have as much support from some of the interest groups, is that I don't think we should do favors for our political backers. And to the extent that business owners in this city are supporting me, what I've heard from most of them is they are tired of politics as usual, in which the answer to every problem is another tax, another bond, another regulation, rather than us admitting that many of our current policies on homelessness and crime are failing, and we need a significant change in direction. So that would be my hypothesis for why I have support from local businesses and employers who are deciding whether or not they're going to continue to invest in our city.
Let me if I can, just follow up on that. Did you say there was a limit on rebuttal?
Well, yes, the limit is 1 minute, and we're actually getting carried away with rebuttals here, but I kind of like it, so.
All right. Barbara, that's the editorial board coming out in you. Yeah. One thing I would say, you asked a bigger question, and you asked a question about why we live in a community that is so labor versus business. And when I went on chamber trips, when I was on the city council 16 years ago, one of the things I was really struck by is almost every city we visited didn't have the same black and white version of you're on this team or you're on that team. And my own feeling, and again, I'll just say that part of the reason it was so important to me to have so many leaders in the business community supporting me was that I understand that something that is dramatically holding us back is this business labor tension, and as it relates to the comment you made about doing favors for some, it's ridiculous to think that happens on one side. The fact of the matter is, you guys, we have so many big problems: housing, homelessness, public safety, that if we don't figure out how to work together, the storied and beautiful San Jose will just be something that people talk about as something that was instead of something that is.
Thank you.
I actually think something we agree on, I'll just be very quick, is that this race is not about business versus labor. I think that with no offense to Barb, I honestly think the question is a little bit stuck in the past, frankly. I don't think this race is business versus labor. I think it is a debate over how much change we need and how fundamentally broken some of our current policies and approaches are. I think it's a very different dynamic. I don't think this is business versus labor.
Well, that leads me to my next question for, well, actually, we'll start with Matt on this, on the homeless, which is, I think, foremost on a lot of people's minds at the moment. Matt, most of the elements in your homeless plan involve variations of strategies that have been in place, different priorities, different, but pretty much the same, except for the plan to take people off the street involuntarily if they refuse to accept housing or treatment for addiction or mental illness, excuse me. How will you persuade the county to move in this direction? And is there any way you can begin doing this in the next couple of years before there's, I think, sadly, enough shelter and enough health care available for the people who do want help?
Yeah, well, thank you. I do support expanding conservatorships, and I think we need to be much more aggressive in getting people indoors into a safe environment, particularly when they are suffering from severe behavioral health disorders. I had one of my best friends in college discovered he had severe bipolar disorder. Thank God we're in Massachusetts, not California, frankly. So I think that change is coming because the public is demanding it. You've seen the governor lead on care courts. That's something that I think is a critical part of the solution, but we should also back up. I actually don't think that my plan for addressing homelessness is what we've been doing. I actually think what we've been doing is not scaling because it's too slow and too expensive. And I'm not saying we haven't helped people through Measure A, but in 6 years, we built about 700 units at a average cost of $850,000 a door. It's too slow, it's too expensive. We have a crisis on our streets. We should be acting like the house is on fire, not waiting to build a fire engine, but grab a bucket and put out the flames. And I think that we've been far too willing to say, well, you know, we're working really hard, we're helping people, we got to just keep going, we're going to eventually get there. We're not at this rate, frankly. We've seen homelessness increase as spending has increased because our strategies are not doing enough to get at root causes and are not nearly efficient or fast enough at getting people indoors. The city, in 2 years, when forced by COVID, built almost as many units as we did in 6 with Measure A on the county side, and we've worked together on these things. There's certainly shared responsibility here, but I'm calling for a significant change in direction because at 5 years to build and $850,000 a door versus 6 months to build and $100,000 a door, clearly we need to scale up the solution that gets people into a safe individual unit as quickly as possible. And frankly, that is not what we've been doing for far too many years.
So I'm going to just jump in on this and make a couple of observations. First of all, the problem is deep, complex, and it is just wrapped in human suffering. And I just want to also say, when you say we, you joined this revolution very late. And in 2015, we created, with all of our cities, an approach that started to get people housed. Since 2015, we've housed 20,000 unhoused people. Now, we're not waiting, and I am taking this very seriously, and it is important to have every single tool available, and that does include interim housing. But part of the reason we're building permanent housing is because eventually, if you're in interim housing, you have to get to permanent housing, which is why you have to build permanent housing. And by the way, most of the housing that we housed people in was housing that already existed. 35% of the people that we've housed, we've been able to house in new dwellings. And I see the stop sign, but you should ask us another question about this because it's really too important to talk about in 1 minute. It really is.
I'm going to go back to Matt and then go back to you again with a quick question. Okay.
Yeah, I just have to rebut that. So joining late, yes, I have been in government for about 2 years. I was building a couple of software companies. I spent 11 years building 2 successful technology companies. So I was doing other things. Doesn't mean I wasn't paying attention or involved. We have the worst unsheltered rate in the country. There are other approaches. You can go to San Antonio and look at Haven for Hope. You can go to New York City, which has a higher rate of homelessness per capita than we do, and the unsheltered rate is the inverse of what we have. You can go to Boston, 3% unsheltered rate. Certainly the weather helps, but what does the weather do? It's a forcing function that requires government to get really pragmatic really quickly and cost effectively scale up basic, safe, individual shelter and get people indoors. And the question for us is, do we have the political will to scale up basic, safe, individual shelter, and then, yes, start to enforce our anti-camping laws and give people options? I'm not talking about jailing people for being homeless, but we will need to end the era of encampments, and that starts by having safe places for people to go and being much more proactive about getting people indoors and keeping them there.
So just to follow up on that, you know, one thing that I recognize is that I don't want people in our community to give up faith and hope that we can get this job done. We're part of the reason that we're so focused on people who are severely mentally ill, who are homeless, is they cost us $63,000 a year when they're living on the street. When we house people, even who are seriously mentally ill, we spend much less money, and we're keeping people housed at about a 93% rate. If we give people, what we're finding is if we can help people who are in their homes today, who are at risk of becoming homeless, it costs us approximately $5,000 a family. So what we're doing is and what we have to do much quicker is we have to make sure that we're keeping people from becoming homeless in the first place, and we're continuing to house people so that we can squeeze that number to a functional zero. One of the reasons that I want to be mayor of San Jose is that I think if we can get the county and the city to be on the same page, we can move much more quickly to get people housed. There's no lack of political will or no lack of sense of urgency. It really is about making sure that we're on one program so we can house people as quickly as possible. And oh, by the way, we didn't just build 700 units. We're much further ahead than that. And at the same time, we're having challenges with even these new technologies for building prefab and instant homes. It doesn't mean we shouldn't keep doing it. It means we have to keep learning and move people as quickly as we can into safe, affordable housing that is permanent.
Thank you. Matt, did you want to comment further?
I mean,
You have other things.
If you have things you want to say, and if you don't, we can move on.
I think there's a lot we can do to move faster. I know you've had 10 years at the county. I have not seen the level of pragmatism, frankly, that I think we need to see given the crisis on our streets, and to defend the status quo approach, which is taking 5 years to build and over $850,000 a unit. We are buying into a myth that we should not buy into, which is the idea that we have to first go publicly subsidize all of the affordable housing that's needed by the community in order to end street homelessness. The humanitarian crisis that we have a moral obligation to solve immediately is people living outdoors. Let's end that. And yes, we need to remove barriers to building more housing. We should continue to subsidize affordable housing for those who need it. But to have the bar up here, if we're going to pass $1 billion bond, which costs $2 billion to pay off, and then over 6 years deliver 700 units to the market, when we have in our county, in our city, over 5,000 people living outside. We had 250 people die on our streets living outside last year. So yes, I'm calling for a different approach, which is scaling up prefabricated modular units on government-owned land. I think we need to look at sanctioned encampments. I think we need to look at government-owned land from the county fairgrounds to all over our county to quickly get people into safe, managed environments with on-site services, put the money into the services, not the $1 million apartments.
You know what? Let me just add something. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that no, it isn't. We're housing people in housing that's available today. We're building housing, and we are building interim housing right now. As a matter of fact, the county's been investing in that. We have a $50 million fund that, by the way, is funding one of the projects in your district. So we're not waiting at all. And what concerns me the most is you are leaders in the community. You all need to understand what we are doing and what we're not doing, because there's no status quo here. We are moving as quickly as we can, learning while we're doing, and housing people in the most safe environment that we can. And we are using a housing first model, in part because we know people who are mentally ill and addicted to drugs and alcohol don't get healthy on the street when you're trying to counsel them on a bench. So we are investing in everything that Mr. Mahan is talking about, every single one of these items, and moving as quickly as we can. Can we move faster? You bet. You bet. And by the way, in 2019, I asked
Thank you.
for innovations. Let me just finish this thought, Barbara. I asked in innovations so that we could use publicly owned land, which by the way, we do now, to look for new modes of technology to be able to build faster. And we have 2 companies that have won those bids, and we're going to see new innovations. Nobody believes the status quo is okay. I certainly don't.
Okay, we're having a great homeless debate here, and it is interesting. 30 seconds if you have something you want to say again, because I see you keeping going.
It's okay. Let's move on to your next topic.
Okay.
I think.
Well, let's very quickly.
My summary is let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, but go ahead. Yes.
Okay. And that goes for timing of debates too. Let's quickly talk about housing in general. Maybe we can do 1-minute answers on this and 30-minute rebuttals.
30 minute?
I mean 30-second. Oh,
Thank you, Barbara.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. I
Gonna
can't
be here all
remember.
day. Yeah.
I can't remember who went first the
You're
last
about
time.
to get
but
the
let me-
stop here from our
Yeah.
timer.
Housing in general, the housing crisis nationwide, but particularly in California, of not having enough housing at all income levels, really, except for the very high. And the legislature has acted. The legislature has made it easier to build housing in cities, sometimes at higher densities and stretching other standards that communities have set. Just generally, let's try to do this big picture. How do you feel about that, and do you support the general move to force cities to build, to allow the construction of more housing? Let's start with Matt.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a foundational crisis we face, and the state is right to push cities to meet their obligation to provide housing for a growing population. What I would prefer, though, other than mandating upzoning, when you have very different cities, San Francisco, Emeryville, very well served by transit, many parts of San Jose, not so well served. I would much prefer that the state take the approach of putting more teeth into our targets and give us the flexibility, preserve the local control to decide how we do it. I think that if we really want to address our housing crisis, which is driven by the fact that our region has added 6 jobs for every 1 home we've built over the last 15 years, we need to remove barriers to building significantly faster and cheaper where we want it, but we should be smart about where we put it. Places like downtown San Jose, along our well-served transit lines, can handle significantly more density, and those are the areas where we need to speed up permitting. We need to remove, look at CEQA. I know I'm out of time. We need CEQA reform. 80% of the lawsuits have nothing to do with the environment. They're often brought by an individual property owner or union or whomever else looking for leverage or to kill a project in the case of many property owners. And we need to actually reform the processes by which we approve housing. I don't think the state should force us to uniformly upzone every neighborhood.
Okay. Cindy?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, I too obviously recognize that this is a statewide crisis, and I appreciate that the state's getting involved because they recognize that it's going to cripple our economy if we don't build more affordable housing of all affordability along the continuum of affordability. I think the challenge here is that it ignores what cities are doing, and it compares the city of San Jose to the city of Cupertino and treats us as, I mean, it doesn't compare us, it treats us as if we're exactly alike. Cupertino has built 19 new affordable housing units in the time that countywide we've built, 1,600. So the challenge is that these statewide mandates negatively impact our ability to manage our budgets at a local level. That said, I do think that there's a balance that can be struck between the state mandates and what's happening at a local level. I think, projects like, or bills like SB 9 are very dangerous because it just frightens every single family homeowner, and it doesn't recognize that we have parts of our community that are so dense, there's literally no place to park, no access to open space. It's not refined enough to make our communities healthy.
Okay. Do either of you feel the need to say more? I think you've pretty much summed up your opinions on this. Okay, good. Then let's move on to public safety. Usually that's first in debates, but this year it just seemed like maybe not quite as much. San Jose doesn't feel as safe as it once was. Reported crime numbers may be less important to the community than social media, where you see daily reports of porch thefts and people lurking around houses and people getting mugged on Lincoln Avenue. Can you believe that? And since the police rarely come out unless a crime is in progress, which they do to the muggings, it's a lot of people don't even bother reporting. 15 years ago, San Jose had 1,300 officers. Today we have about 1,000. We struggle to keep them. They want substantial raises. The city is just recovering from the pension funding crisis that forced huge service cuts to all city departments a few years back. So the big question is, how do we recover a strong police department? How do we restore public trust? Do we need a citizen review committee to make the department more friendly to the community? We'll start with Cindy.
Yes, so thank you. When I served on the city council, it was the safest big city in the country. And when I left in 2016, we had 200 more officers then than we do today, and we have 100,000 more people. The response times for priority 2 calls have doubled. And a priority 2 call is a mugging where the person that perpetrated the crime isn't there anymore. You could wait up to 20 minutes if you get a response. So this absolutely is from my perspective, my #1 priority. The city of San Jose over the last 5 years has spent about $45 million a year in overtime pay. And what that means is that we could be adding officers even by taking a fraction of that. And the city of San Jose, through their budget process this June, added 20 new officers with a plan to add 15 new officers a year. What I think we need to do is add 45 new officers a year, move as quickly as we can to increase the number of officers, because one of the challenges is we can't address response times without it. And if you don't have strong response times, to your point, there are 2 issues. People aren't reporting because they just think, why bother? But the other issue is you're not pushing the envelope in terms of what your actual need is on the street. And we know that need is great.
Matt?
So we absolutely should hire more police officers to improve response times. But, you know, we talked about special interest influence earlier, and I think we should acknowledge that had elected officials, including my opponent, 20 years ago, not agreed to a series of unfunded and even retroactive benefit increases, we could have twice the size of our department today. 15%, 15 cents on every dollar that you pay to the city of San Jose in your tax dollars every year comes off the top to backfill the over $4 billion unfunded liability that we accrued, and that many of those elected leaders actually took far too long and pushed against solving. And so I think fiscal responsibility, being business friendly, growing the tax base, living within our means are all foundational to having the level of services that we ought to have today. I think that's a really important starting place. I am all for adding more officers and have prioritized funding in my budget requests for officers, for automatic license plate readers. I think we also need to acknowledge, though, that many of our officers who I talk to, their greatest frustration is the fact that they're arresting the same people over and over again because of a lack of effective intervention. And that impact on our small businesses and our neighborhoods is horrible, and it's unnecessary. And if jail isn't the answer, then we should have years ago invested in a secure drug treatment facility, for example, an alternative to the jail. We have been far too slow. Frankly, our county has been far too slow to keep the community safe by investing in appropriate interventions for repeat offenders. The data is very stark. Your thinly staffed police department, over the last 2 years, arrested or cited 800 people 5 or more times, 100 people 10 or more times. One guy over 30 times. So that revolving door is it's that definition of insanity that I keep pointing to. On homelessness and crime, we have to fundamentally change our approaches if we're going to actually bend the curve on some of these big challenges that we face. And we need to admit that what we've been doing isn't working.
You know, just to follow up on that, I want to give some reflections on Matt's take that the city council was being irresponsible. I remind him, and I would remind others, that council included council members like Ken Yeager, Linda Lazat, and Chuck Reed. And what I'm saying there is that these are thoughtful people, as I consider myself, making the best decisions in the time that we were making those decisions. But let me just follow up on this issue about how we should be dealing with public safety. First of all, in 2010, we were, the police department, we had 25,000 crimes reported. In 2012, we had 32,000. In 2010 is when we had our Measure B challenges, and we started to dramatically lose police officers. The year that we had 25,000 reported crimes, we had 27,000 arrests. That's what the San Jose Police Department was doing. When we had 32,000, we had 17,000 arrests, and those arrests have not picked up. So the issue is that we don't have enough officers to actually do the primary work of making the arrests that we need to be able to work people through this process, and not having enough investigators to deal with the revolving crime issue is really one of making sure that we're stopping people who are committing these violent crimes and making sure we have enough investigators to support our officers.
I need to make sure, and you're welcome to do a little rebuttal, Matt. I want to leave 3 minutes for each of you to do a wrap up and say the things. We need to do that momentarily. So could you do a quick rebuttal on this, and then actually
Sure.
Cindy finishes last. So why don't you take 3.5 minutes for your final closing? Okay.
I'm doing the closing now or the rebuttal?
You're doing both.
Doing both.
Just
Okay,
tear-
I'm doing it
just
all. All
tear
right.
through.
So my rebuttal to that, I suppose, would be to just say, just ask the street crimes unit. I've sat down with them, and they will tell you that increasingly what you're seeing are citations, not arrests, because it is not rational to spend 3-4 hours booking somebody when they're out on the streets before the paperwork's done. So I think we need to acknowledge what the data shows, which is that we are not as safe as we could be, and we're not getting help, frankly, for those who are caught up in cycles of addiction and criminality, because we're not appropriately intervening. So in terms of just transitioning to my closing, I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation today. It's a big decision. Our next mayor could serve for up to 10 years, and I hope you all will think about whose approach and the issues they will highlight, the kinds of solutions that they will focus on. You want to see leading our city. I personally believe that we can do better. I think we can do much better. But I think doing better is going to require us to work in a different way. I think it starts with having the humility to acknowledge that many of our current policies and approaches are not delivering the outcomes that we want. I'm running to bring a greater level of accountability to City Hall, the same accountability I instituted in my middle school classroom when I was a public school teacher out in Alum Rock, and in my technology companies when I was leading teams to build products for millions of users, which starts with a very simple approach, which is prioritizing what's most important, setting goals, baselining where we are today, benchmarking against our competitors, in this case, other comparable cities, measuring performance, being fast to fail, to acknowledge when a current program or policy or strategy is not delivering the outcome we want, and then having some skin in the game. And I think that as elected officials and senior leaders at the city, our pay raise each year should be tied to measurable progress on a small set of strategic goals. And I don't think it's too much to ask. I've heard folks say, oh, that's impossible. It's the public sector. You can't do this. Well, I think we, in the capital of Silicon Valley, need to innovate the way that the public sector works. And that's why I'm running, because I know we can do better, but we have to work in a different way. Thank you again for having us.
Thank you. And we still have our 3 minutes for Cindy
Oh,
Chavez.
thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for letting us be with you today. I agree this is a big decision. And I wouldn't be running for mayor of San Jose if I didn't believe we could address public safety, address homelessness, address affordable housing, which we need to build much, much more of, and be able to address cleaning San Jose up again. It's a mess. I feel like I left and there was a big party for 16 years. I want to clean up San Jose. Let me just say a little bit about why and how I want to approach this. As a member of the Board of Supervisors, I have always recognized that we have an obligation to be able to work with every single city and help them succeed, and that included San Jose. So while San Jose was suffering without enough officers, we added more investigators to the district attorney's office. While San Jose and other cities had a backlog of rape kits, we invested in helping those all get processed. We now process rape kits faster than any county in the country. We knew that we needed to do more to address child abuse and other violent crimes against children. We created the Child Advocacy Center. We knew that we needed to do more to make sure we were responding quickly. Our child advocacy hotline, when I got there, was answering calls at a 68% rate. We're now at a 96% rate, and you get a live person and we're responding right away. My point is this: whenever we've had an issue that we need to lean in hard, even if it's not comfortably in our lane, we've done that. And the County of Santa Clara played a leadership role in supporting every city in this county to address housing. Housing is primarily, as you all know, the domain of cities. But in 2012, when we lost redevelopment, counties had an opportunity, and every one of us had an opportunity to decide if we could lean in to solve this problem. I very easily could have said, the city does housing, we do mental health services, and pointed. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible approach. Instead of pointing, I asked everybody to gather around the table, and we created Measure A. And not only that, in partnership with Destination Home and 1,000 good people in this community, we've housed 20,000 people. We need to do more, and we need to do it faster. If I were satisfied with the way government was working, I wouldn't be running again. But I am a person who's running because I have a record of accomplishment. I can point to what I've done, and when I say we can make San Jose safer, I say that because we've done it before. When I say we can house more people, I say that because I played a leadership role in housing 20,000 people. When I say we can clean San Jose up, I'm saying that because we've had the experience of doing it before. I would be so honored to have your support. I have 9 out of the 10 council members supporting me. Some are to the left of me, some are to the right of me. But the reason they're supporting me is they know that I get work done. And they know I do it in a collaborative way. And they know, frankly, my goal is to lift everybody's game up. My job is to help other people succeed. In spite of all the ugly mail that you're seeing in your mailbox, even that's coming from the current mayor about me, I'm meeting with him to make sure that we can do things like resolve what's happening in North San Jose. Because leaders help. Leaders are helpers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
That went by so fast.
I did. We were afraid of that. You should
Well-
see all the questions I still have.
Thank you, Supervisor Chavez and Councilman Mahan, for participating, and thank you, Barb. Yeah, it's telling me to stop. And thank you, Barb, for moderating today. I hope for all of you that today's program was enlightening, and let's give a big round to these candidates who are running. No matter where you stand, it takes a lot of courage to run for this office in the 10th largest city in the country, and I would be remiss not to remind you to please get in your ballots, no matter who you're voting for, by November 8th. Okay, so another reminder, as you leave, please bus your tables. Help our staff out by putting your plates and cups in the trash cans in the back. Next week, of course, to our speakers, we do have, we're making a donation to San Jose Jazz's Jazz Aid Fund in your names this week, but next week's speaker will be Mary Beth Riley, head of school at Notre Dame High School, on the importance of women in leadership. So we'll keep the good times rolling till next week. Have a great day.